everyone, and welcome to Thursday, May 21st edition of Gentle Movement at Home. I am Jen Hansen from Pain BC, and I'm joined today by Neil Pearson, our regular instructor for this series. Welcome, Neil. Just a reminder that Neil isn't able to answer any specific medical questions or advice. We do take some time at the end where you are very welcome to ask anything to do with the movement series that we do today or movement in general. But for any specific medical advice, please consult your healthcare provider. We are recording this series, so you can share it with your friends and family or redo a session. The recording lives on our YouTube channel and also in the video section of our Facebook page. Please do wait for the poll at the end of the session, and you can give us your feedback on how this went for you. And if you need any help, as usual, just email us at education@painbc.ca or put your question or request into the chat. If you do have a question for Neil, put that into the Q&A, well, Q&A or chat, and we'll just take some time at the end and go through it. Tomorrow we have Gentle Movement with Helen Turner at 12 o'clock. Monday, Neil is back, and then Wednesday, May 27th, we're also again with Neil. And there's more sessions listed on our website. We do have a number of other resources for people in pain during this time. Our pain support and wellness groups are online. You can find more information on our website at painbc.ca/support groups. As usual, our pain support line is open, and more information about our programs are on painbc.ca/find-help. So without further ado, Neil, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Jen, and welcome everyone. And yes, if you haven't been to the painbc.ca website and you have pain or you know other people who have pain, there's so many resources there. So go, take some time and check that out. Sorry, a little commercial break to start. But I think it's a really great resource. So we're going to start today in the seated position, as you can see. We're going to move up to standing after a while and do a few different things in standing. So when we come to standing, it'll be great to have a chair. I've got my chair just back here, and I'll move it in a little closer once we get there. So if you can slide a chair over to wherever you are right now, take the time to do that, or there'll be time afterwards to move it as well. So I'm sitting down on a little cushion right here, and you're certainly okay to do that, or to sit in any kind of chair that you want, or edge of a stool, or you can even start the beginning of this practice laying down if you'd like to. That's fine. But we'll start with I'll start with a seated position. The point of all that is that please know that you can modify things as you're going along here to what would serve you best today. So find a comfortable place, either laying down or sitting on the floor, or a little cushion like I am, or in a chair, and just take a moment to check in before we start moving, before we start working on this practice. Just notice how you're doing right now. How are you doing today? So maybe notice how your energy feels. Maybe it's today you're feeling more energetic, or maybe it's today you're feeling more tired. Notice how your breath feels. Does it feel smooth, nice and flowing, soft, or there's some catchy spots or edgy spots, or is it short? And of course, if you want to change it, go ahead and change it if you want to, but see if you can notice it as well, rather than just jumping in and changing everything right away. Sometimes it really helps just to start with noticing. Notice how your body feels. Make sure you check into the parts that feel good. Where are those spots? Notice the areas that might have some tension or discomfort or pain right now. Notice what that feels like. And then see what's happening in your mind. Maybe your mind feels nice and calm, or maybe it's sort of in that middle spot, or maybe your mind feels like it's racing around to lots of different things. And also notice if there are any emotions there. Whether you feel anxious right now, or maybe feel sad right now, or uncertain, or whatever it is. Just notice what's there. And then bring your attention to your breath. Feel the sensation of your breath. Notice the sensation of your breath as you breathe in. So you probably can feel some sensation of movement of air around your nose or through your nostrils or the back of your throat. And you probably can feel some movement in your body. And just for a few breaths, smooth it out a bit. Trying to take the edge off it. Don't worry about making it big. Just savor it, slow it down, make it last a bit. We often think of big breaths and deep breaths as the answer to calming things down. And often for a lot of us, it's more the sensation of a softer breath, or a breath that's not really big. And as I say that, we're going to move into a bit of a different breath practice today that will be a little bit bigger, but we'll give that a try. And so some people call this stair-step breath. And so the idea with stair-step breath, I'll explain it first, is that you would breathe in five small bits of breath. Like you breathe in a bit, then you breathe in a bit more, then a bit more, then a bit more, then a bit more, like going up 5 steps. Now you don't exhale between them. You just breathe in 5 times, and then you're gonna, once you get to the 5th time, what you do is you just pause there for a beat or two, and then you're gonna breathe out slowly. So it'd be like you breathe in, if you can breathe in through your nose, but if that's not gonna work today, just breathe in through your mouth. So you breathe in, sort of breathe in, and then a bit more, and a bit more, bit more, bit more. Pause for a beat or two, and now breathe out slowly. So I'm going to use about a beat of about 5. So I'm going to breathe in and pause for 1, 2, and then breathe out. And breathe back in. Pause. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold or pause there, and then breathe out. And try that again and see, once you get to the hold, see if you can pause there. Don't hold yourself tight. You sort of wait for a moment or two, and then you breathe out. Now, if this is going too slow and you need to pick up the pace, go ahead and pick up the pace. If you lose your breath as you're doing this, let it go. Catch your breath again, move around a little bit, and then rejoin. I'm going to get you to switch it around to the other way now. So next time you breathe in, make the breathe in sort of long, gradual inhale. You'll pause again for 1 or 2, and then you're going to breathe out in steps. So you breathe in. So breathe in for about 5 beats. Pause for a beat or 2, and then breathe out in steps. So keep on trying that a little bit. Slow, easy inhale. Pause. Breathe out in steps. And then let that go again. If your body feels like it just got tense, see if you can move around a little bit. This one is one that can take a little effort to get it so it feels like it's smooth. And you do have the option, if you're feeling like 5 steps, too many steps, then do 3 or do 4. You feel free to play around with it. This is one of the harder ones to sort of show because your breath rate and your breath pattern may need to be a little bit different from mine. So before you carry on, we're going to get you to try to do this once again, 5 breaths doing the step on the inhale, and then 5 breaths doing the step on the exhale. But during that little pause, what I'd like you to do for right now is think about something that when you look at it, it makes you feel happy or joyful or peaceful. And just, think of one thing, like a visual image of something that makes you feel happy or more joyful or more at peace. And while you're at that pause, so after the steps up, when you're at that pause, think about that or recreate that image in front of your eyes and your mind's eye if you can. And the same as you breathe out, when you breathe out, when you breathe in and there's the pause before you do the steps on the way out, create that same visual image. So just pick one and let's give it a try. So 5 of the steps on the breath in, then the pause and long out, then 5 of the long in, pause, steps on the breath out. So if you haven't gotten there yet, do the step, the long inhale, pause, and the steps on the breath out. Doing your best to remember to bring up that visual image of something that makes you feel happy, joyful, at peace. So hopefully you've been able to follow along with that. And hopefully you paused when you needed to. You waited and caught your breath again before you do it again. If you're still working at it, just let it go again. And just check in again and see how you're feeling right now. Notice what your breath feels like right now, what your body feels like. Notice what's happening in your thoughts, what's happening in your emotions. And then just from that seated position, if you're okay staying here. So if you're laying down, come on up to a seated position now, either sitting on a cushion or a pillow or up in a chair. And then from that position, just start to move your spine a little bit. Start to get a little bit of movement in your spine. Now, if you watch a lot of these sessions or a number of these sessions, you'll see this kind of movement gets used a lot. The movement of the spine, trying to get the low back, the mid back, and the neck moving gently. We know a lot of us who have ongoing pain. It can be pain that relates to the spine. So modify the movement, the amount of movement that you're doing to the amount that feels good. Come back onto that sort of middle neutral spot again. If you're okay with it today, put your left hand down on the floor right now and take your other arm up to the sky. If that doesn't feel good, let your arm rest at the side. If you can, take it up and then come into a side bend. You can put your hand down the floor so you get your balance and push yourself back up. Let that arm come down. Right hand on the floor, left arm comes up, and then you come down to a side bend the other side. Now, if you try this with your arm up and it doesn't feel like the right thing to do, feel free to do it without your arm coming up. If you do it and you feel like one side is stiffer than the other, just go to the place that feels like the right amount of movement. This isn't about seeing how much you can put up with pain. Now, part of the reason we focus on moving the spine is because movements of the spine, we know that they can help to change the chemistry of the body. There's even some evidence that it changes the activity of the amount of adrenaline in your body and the amount of cortisol in your body. And those chemicals have to do with stress. And in some people, there seems to be a connection between how much of those chemicals are in your body and how much stress and pain you have. So somehow there's a connection between moving your spine and what's happening in that chemistry. That's part of the reason why we focus on this. And then just one more time, the other side, back to the center, come on down. If your legs get tight from sitting in a cross-legged position, feel free to move them around if you want to. You don't have to wait until I'm going to do that. And just try one other movement of the spine. Actually, we're going to do two more movements of the spine. We'll do a twist and then a little bit of just the lengthening of the spine. So put your right hand around on your left knee, put your left hand on the floor beside you. If you're in a chair, hand on the knee, other hand along the side of the chair, and just bring yourself around to that just right spot. And for today, we're going to go back and forth. Now, if you try doing this and it doesn't feel like the right thing to do, then stick with one side and just do one side a few times, come back to the center and then do the other side. If you're okay with going back and forth, then do that. Figure out the right amount of movement. So how do you know how far to go? Well, your breath can help you. If you start to feel like your breath is getting tight, you might say, well, maybe I'll try not to go so far. Or if you start to feel like your body is getting tense as you're doing this, maybe that's an indication, don't go quite so far. If you start to feel like it's not safe to do, again, don't go so far, or maybe it's time to pause and do something else or rest. Just one more time this side. Great. Again, if you need to move your arms or legs or anything, just go ahead and do it. The last movement of the spine we want you to do is lengthening. So we didn't start with that today. We're going to start with it now. So that idea of someone pulling you straight up. So as you breathe in next time, just create that sensation like you're lifting up tall, like your spine is getting longer, and then let it release a bit as you breathe out. Just do that a few times. Just lift up and then come back down again. I just noticed I was lifting up my eyebrows, which happens a lot of times as we try to lift up. We start to lift everything. Sometimes as we do this, the shoulders come up. If that's happening, you can let them come down. If you feel like your eyebrows are lifting up, well, you can just let them relax. If they're coming up and trying to make you smile, that's fine. And then next time you get up really tall to that lengthened spot, just let your shoulders drop down a bit. Let your shoulders come back a little bit, like your shoulder blades are coming towards each other. Pull the front of your neck a little bit back towards the back of your neck. If your chin is down, just bring it up a little bit, then pause there and smooth out your breath again for a moment. And then you can let that release. If you haven't already, take your legs out in front of you. So you put them out in front of you. You might want to shift them around a little bit while you're there. That would feel good. Roll them around a bit. Try to find a spot where you're sitting with your legs out in front of you. So I'm staying up on this cushion. It's a little bit more comfortable for me to have my legs straight out and my spine up tall. You might feel fine down on the floor. If you're in a chair, sit at the edge of the chair. See if you can bring your legs straight and be in that tall position. Let your hands rest down on your thighs. Shoulders drawn back a little bit. And just smooth out your breath here. And then take your right arm and reach it over top of the left foot, but a little bit off to the side, and then come on back. And then take your other arm out the other side, your left arm to the side, bring it back. So keep your legs straight. You can let your back bend forward just a little bit while you do this. It's like you're pushing something away. Using some effort in your shoulders, like there's something heavy there and you're giving your arms a little bit of a workout, pushing it away. Great. Come back to the center next time. Let your knees bend for a moment. Shift them around a little bit. And if you're okay with it, bring your feet in so you bring the soles of your feet in towards each other. And so you can hang onto your ankles or hang onto your feet. Find your spine in that tall place. And come back to your breath now. Create a sensation that your hips are just a little bit softer, almost like you can breathe down in your hips, like your hips will start to relax down. You can see my knees up are a little bit tight because I have pretty tight around my hips. Maybe your hips or your knees roll down a little bit further. Try to get your spine tall, smooth out your breath again. And then you can release that. Take your legs back out in front of you, but this time have them further apart. And so we're going to do that same tall spine. Legs are reaching a bit long, smoothing out your breath. And if you feel like this is far enough, like right here, this is a challenge or the right challenge for your body, stay here. If you feel like being forward like this or straight up tall like this is more than your body's ready for, you can put your hands behind your back, take some of the weight so you can lean back a bit to find that spot where your hips feel okay. So either you're going to be here or you're going to be up here, wherever you get to. If your hands are back, you're going to reach out like this. If it's okay to have your hands just resting on your thigh, rest the opposite hand on your thigh. As you reach out, like you're pushing things away, push it away, push it away. Keep breathing while you're doing it. Try not to hold your breath. Great. And then let your shoulders relax. Bring your legs back in, cross them again if that's okay. If you're sitting in a chair, sit back a bit, bend your knees, put your feet flat on the floor. Find your spine tall. Bring your chin down towards your chest. Lift your head back up to that just right spot and back down. So feel a gentle stretch through the back of your neck. Come on back up. The just right amount. So if you know your neck's okay with going up and it feels good to put your head up, look up towards the sky, do that. Try not to do it from the rounded position. Try to have a nice long spine when you look up. So you're trying to get your whole spine to bend backwards. If that feels good. Then bring your head back to the center and we'll do a little bit of side bend with our neck. So you can let your head come down to the side. Come on back up to the center. Head down to the other side. Remember, go the distance that feels right for you today. If it was a day where you're feeling like there's more energy and you feel like you want to challenge things a bit more, go ahead and do that. If it's a day to take it more easily, do that. It's one of the things about persistent pain is often we approach everything as a challenge, always trying to push harder and harder. And sometimes the best thing to do is just take it easy. Go gently. Because movement is good for the body. Just moving around changes the chemistry of the body, changes our physiology in ways that help us to regain more movement over the time. Not that we always have to bang at the edge. Come on back to the center. Try to find that really tall spine. Take a break if you need to, but if you're okay to carry on, carry on. Tall spine. Look over your right shoulder. Come on back to the center. Keep your spine tall. Look to the other side. Let your breath do whatever feels good. So maybe it feels good to breathe in as you go over towards the left side and breathe out as you go back over to the right. Or maybe you'll breathe in as you go to the left, breathe out as you come back to the center, breathe in as you go to the right, breathe out as you go back to the center. You choose. And a question we often get is, do you breathe the same way with all movements? And the answer is no. We need to play around to see what breath pattern works best for us as individuals with a particular movement. And sometimes it feels good to breathe in while you lift up and breathe out while you come down. But sometimes it's even helpful to do it the opposite way, in an opposite way that our body tends to go. Anyway, if you're still moving, come back to a position here again. Take your legs back out in front of you again. Get your spine tall again. So place your hands on your thighs. Let your chin come down towards your chest and just slide your hands down towards your feet wherever they go to, and then come on back up again. So be gentle. This isn't about seeing how hard you can push and how much pain you can tolerate. The idea is go to the spot where you say, yeah, feels safe there. Yes, I think I'll be okay later if I move this way. The place where you feel like, yeah, you can keep your breath flowing. It's easy to smile. Your body's not really gripping as you go forward. Now, you know the areas where your body usually gets tense. So check in with those areas and see, are they getting tight? Maybe you tend to get tense around your eyes or around your jaw or your tongue or your back or your hips. Some of us even hold tension in our hands. So check in with all those areas. And now next time you come forward to a spot where you can stay for a breath or two or three. So you see, I'm not going very far forward. This feels like it's enough for today. I'm just getting to this spot. You may be laying there with your chest right down in your thighs, and that's perfectly fine. Or this may be the best place for you to get to, where your hands are just resting on your thighs or knees. And do whatever feels like that's safe. That feels okay. That feels like my body has a chance to let go here. You're still there, come on back up. Bring your legs back in again. If you're seated on that chair, bend your knees again, put your feet back down on the floor. Get your spine a little bit tall again. Circle your shoulders around. Breathe while you do it. Do your best not to hold your breath. And then circle your shoulders the other way. If there's any pain or discomfort while you do this, don't crash through it. Just do the movement enough where you're coming to the edge, or you're doing the movement inside that place where it feels easy. No matter how small that is, that could be the best thing for you to do today. And let your shoulders relax. Take your arms out in front of you. Just bend your elbows in, straighten your elbows out. Do this for a few times. Keep your breath flowing. If you want to do it with your arms down here, do it down here. If it's okay, do it with your arms up. Great. If you can keep your arms there, circle your wrists around. If that's feeling like it's enough, let your arms rest down. Circle your wrists there, or let them hang at your sides and circle your wrists there. Just get a little bit more movement in different parts of your body. A lot of times we hear people saying that this is like getting the blood flowing. Absolutely. But there's so many other physiological things, so many other chemistry things that happen within our body as we move. Go around the other way with your wrists if you haven't tried that already. Great. And then let your hands rest. Just shift around a little bit. Find that tall spine again, like someone's pulling you straight up. Come on up to that position and smooth out your breath again. See if you can smooth out the sound of your breath and the feeling of the air coming in and out, and smooth out the movement of your body as you breathe in and breathe out. Not worrying about how deep the breath is, just trying to create that sense of making it a bit longer, making it a little bit smoother. Great. And from here, we're going to come on up to standing. So whatever way to come up will serve you. If you know the right way, go ahead. If there's a chair and you want the chair to support you, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to bring this chair just to the side here and stand in this position. So once you come to this standing position, just let your shoulders relax a little bit. Create a bit of length in your spine while you're here. Smooth out your breath again. Shift your hips around a little bit. See if you can get the weight even on the inside of your feet and the outside of your feet. See about getting the weight even from the front of your foot to the back of your foot. And the chair's there if you need it for balance or want it for balance. You don't have to need it. You could just want to have the chair there. You feel more steady. Just for a couple breaths, try that step breath again from here. So breathe in. Pause. And breathe out slowly. Try it again. Breathe in. Pause. Breathe out slowly. And just continue on doing that. When you get to that pause, this time think about yourself stronger, more fearless. So you can imagine a more fearless you, a you that feels like you can challenge yourself more. You have more strength, they have more stability, but it has to do with that sense of being more fearless. Imagine yourself like that when you get to the pause, and then breathe out. And then try switching around. So breathe in long and slow for about 5 beats. Pause for 1 or 2 while you imagine yourself more fearless, and breathe out in those steps. Breathe in, long, smooth inhale. Pause with that sense of yourself, that image of yourself, more fearless, and breathe out in steps. And then let that go. If you need to shift anything around again, go ahead and do that. Place one hand on the chair. So if you're standing beside the chair, place one hand on the chair. If staying in the chair is where you need to go, you're probably going to need to imagine this, although you can do some of these movements from sitting at the edge of the chair. the first thing we're going to do from standing is just work on feeling our feet solid on the floor, our spine really tall. You can have one hand here, maybe with the other hand on your hip if that would feel good, or just resting at your side. And just take your legs straight up to the front and put it back down. Take the weight back on both legs. Straight up to the front, put it back down. Now, if you're standing, use the hand on the chair as little as you need to. So maybe it's just resting there a bit and you're just sort of touching it with a fingertip. Or maybe there's more pressure, but just give that a try. And only lift your leg as far as it feels like the right thing to do. Notice what happens with your breath while you do this. Try your best not to hold. Notice where your body might get tight. You might be noticing by now that the muscles around your left hip are getting tense. When the foot comes back down again, see if you can pause for a moment and see if it'll release. Maybe it's best to shift around a little bit. Let's try the other side. So if you're all right with it, same hand on the chair. The weight's going to come over on the right leg this time. The left leg just comes up to the front. You don't have to lift it up really high, but if it feels good to lift it up really high, go right ahead and do it. And as you're doing this, try not to let your whole spine do this. So your spine stays tall. You just lift the leg up. You put it back down. Release some of the tension. So I'm exaggerating this so you can see this idea of both feet come down, tension's diminishing, hand goes back on, weight comes back over, leg comes up, back down again. Great. And then we're going to do the same thing, but this time to the side. So if you need to pause or shift your hips around, go ahead and do it. So hand on the chair again, hand on your hip again. This time you're going to take your left leg out to the side. So just bring it to the side, put it back down, feel the weight back on both feet. Shift the weight back to the right foot, left leg comes out, put it back down, weight back on both legs. Just try it like that a few times. Now, if it feels best just to lift your leg up just a little, do that. If a bigger lift up feels like the best thing to do that. Make sure you feel like this is the right thing to do. I'll be okay if I keep on doing this. As best you can, keep your hips from doing sort of this. Try not to lean around too much while you do it. So you're trying to keep your spine up tall as your leg goes out to the side. And then pause with that leg. And remember, I did a whole bunch of those. If you start to feel like that's enough, you can stop before I stop. So I'm going to just keep on facing you while I do this, but you could shift around and go sideways like this and lift your other leg out to the side. So I'm just going to do it from here and just lift my leg out a little bit towards the front so I don't kick the chair, but you get the idea. Is you could face the chair and do this. Same idea, leg out to the side, feet come back down, shift your weight again, shift over, forward, right. Keep your breath flowing while you do it. If you can, keep your spine in that tall place. Make sure you're checking in. What's happening in your breath? What's happening with your body tension? What's happening in your mind? What's happening with your energy? Lots of times when there's ongoing pain, we need to make sure that we don't use too much energy in the midst of our movement. So if you're still going, just pause now. Have a seat if having a seat would feel good, or stand still, shift your spine around a little bit. Just try to let any of the tension that's built up there go. So now we're going to do leg to the back. So you could turn sideways with this, put both your hands down on the chair and so shift the weight onto your right foot, and you're just going to take your left foot back and back down. And so for right now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep my spine tall and just lift my leg back. So if you find that you're doing this a little bit, that's fine. But see if you can keep your spine tall and then just let your leg come back to whatever feels right. Put it back down, release the tension, shift your weight again, take it back to the back, put it back down. And just do one more with this side. And then try the same thing on the other side. Keep your breath flowing. Take your leg back, put it back down. Do your best to keep your spine tall. Do your best to keep your breath flowing while you do it. Great. Good. And once again, if you need to have a seat, if you're feeling like that's enough, pause. Wait until you sort of feel like it's ready to go again, or maybe you're going to say that's enough for today. It's one more leg movement to do. This time you're going to take your leg across the front of your body. So I'm going to shift the weight onto my left leg and take my right leg and lift it, or take it across the front, put it back down. Weight comes on my left foot. I take my right leg across the front and put it back down. So there's quite a temptation to do all this with your upper body. See if you can keep your spine tall and just focus the movement on your hip. Maybe it doesn't move very far, and that's fine. So maybe the foot just comes in front of the other foot, and that's okay. Don't worry about the distance. If you keep on working on movements like this, they'll start to free up. They'll start to get easier. It's not a matter of push, push, push. If you're still going, pause. If you're ready to start up the other side, start up the other side. If you need to stretch for a little bit or wait, go ahead before you start the other side. So weight onto the right foot this time. The left leg comes in front of the body, comes back down. Shift your weight again. Leg comes across. Come on back down. A lot of things to pay attention to while you're doing this. Your breath and your body tension and what's happening in your mind and what's happening in your hip, what's happening in the leg that's taking all the weight. Just try one more time and come back to the center. Again, if it would feel best to take a break for a moment, sit down, go ahead and do that. If you're feeling good standing up, then stay with standing up for right now. So this time, what you're going to do is you're going to be in the right place around the chair. So the movement this time is going to be a forward fold. So you could do this with your hands on the chair here and your feet back a bit. And so you're putting your bottom back and you're coming down so you feel like you're bending at the hips. So it's not a lot of the rounding, it's more of the bending at the hips. And just come forward till you feel like that's enough. So you can do that with your hands here. Your hips come back and come to a fold this way. Or you could be sideways to the chair and doing it this way. So only go to that spot that feels like that's the right amount. Nothing bad is going to happen in terms of your spine. If you let your spine round a bit, for right now, just focus on moving at the hips. So keeping your spine relatively neutral as you come forward, like you're doing a bow to that just right spot where your breath can still flow, where it feels like, yeah, that feels safe. If you're doing this, it might be that the more you do this, it might free up the movement. Or it could be while you do this, you're starting to feel like, I can't go as far. If you start to have that sensation that you're losing ground the more you do, it's probably time to say, that's enough for right now. It's another indicator that that's enough movement for right now, and you can come back and work on it later. So if you are still working on that, just pause. So I'm going to show you the next one from the side. So what we're going to do this time is start to add some things together. So we're going to do the bow forward like this, and then your arm comes up and your arm comes down and you stand back up again. So you bow, your arm comes up, arm comes down, stand back up again. Just try that a few times. Bow forward to whatever spot you get to. So maybe as you're doing this, the bow is just there and the arm is there. That's fine. If you can bow forward and come all the way to so your upper body is parallel to the floor, go ahead and do that. So bow forward, arm comes up. Remember, you don't have to keep on going if that feels like it's enough for you. So you can switch around to do the other side. When you're ready, if you need to shift anything, go ahead and do it. So you're going to bow forward again, the other arm comes up and back down. Bow, arm comes up, back down. So you got to take care of your shoulder, take care of your spine, take care of your hips. If your knees feel like they're really pushing back hard, let them soften a bit and bend a bit while you do this. Find the just right amount of movement. Great. I'm just going to swing the chair around for a moment. So use that chair that you've got and just pause for a moment. Come down to a seated position, give your hips a little bit of a break because we're going to go back into that same position, but you're going to bow forward, your arm is going to come up, and you're actually going to lift up your opposite leg. So we'll try that. But just give your body a little bit of a break before you try on the other side. So come back to that neutral spot, lengthen your spine a bit, soften your breath a bit. Probably feel your breath is a little bit more rapid now after you've been doing some of that movement. Check in as well. How's your energy doing? Does it feel like more of this movement, more of a similar movement is the right thing to do for today? Or maybe that's enough for right now. If it is, imagine the movement. And if you're thinking that's so much easier than moving, give it a try, because most people find that imagining movement is actually a harder thing to do than moving the body. Creating a sensation that you're actually doing that in your body can be a difficult skill to get better at. So when you're ready, come on back up. If you need more time, take your time. It's all right. So I'm going to turn the chair back around again. So come to the side of the chair. My right hand's on the chair. Bow forward. Other hand comes up. Opposite leg goes back. And bring them back down. Come on back up. So as you bow forward, you can take your hand up and your opposite leg back. This. Now, some of you who are more flexible than me, you're going to get to that spot where your body and your leg and your arm are all in this sort of straight line in front. If there's troubles around your shoulder or hip, you may not get anywhere there for right now. But continue to use the guidelines we talked about of actually just going to that just right spot. So bow down, arm comes up, then your leg comes up. You can bring both leg and arm back down at the same time. One more time on this side. Bow down, arm comes up, leg comes up. Great. And we'll try the same thing on the other side. Remember, give yourself a break if you need to. So left hand on the chair. Bow forward, lift your right arm up, then lift your left leg up. Both arm and leg come down as you stand back up. Bow, arm up, leg up, back down. Find the right amount of movement for you, right amount of repetitions. Don't just keep going because I'm still going. Got to find the right challenge, the right effort. And it takes practice to find this. Sometimes we push too hard and we're sore afterwards, and then we learn, okay, maybe I need to do less next time. All right, so we're just going to come back and do one more thing on each side. This time, once your arm and your leg come up, then pause for either 1 breath, 2 breaths, or 3 breaths. So turn to the side, hand on the chair, bow forward, arm comes up, opposite leg comes up. 1, 2, or 3 breaths. And if you can, while you're here, if you want to, you can take your other hand up, or you take your hand towards the front. That does not feel like the right thing, leave your hand there. And then put your hand back down, put your leg and your arm back down. Give your hips a bit of a shake. We'll try the same thing on the other side. So pause and make sure you're ready to go. Hand comes on the chair. Bow forward, right arm comes up, opposite leg comes up. Pause here for 1 or 2, 3 breaths. If it feels okay to lift your hand up, lift it up. If it's okay to take your hand straight in front of you, do that. Do your best to keep your breath flowing, your body from getting too tense. Put your hand back down, put your arm and your leg back down, and then pause. See how you're feeling now and see if it makes sense to do the same thing one more time on each side. So if it feels okay to do it, come on back to the other side again. So right hand on the chair, bow forward, arm comes out, opposite leg comes out. If it would feel okay to do it, take your other arm out and breathe. Lose your balance like I just did, that's fine. Your arms come down, leg comes down. Give things a bit of a shake, and then try the other side one more time. Remember, if you're feeling like that's enough, that's fine. Left hand on the chair. Take your leg, arm out. Take your opposite leg out. You either leave that hand on the chair or put the other hand out 1 or 2 or 3 breaths. I've really slowed my breath down here, so that's the end of the third one. And then come on back up. Now, if sitting back in the chair feels like the right thing to do, go ahead and do that. I'm going to come back down onto my cushion. If on the other hand, you want to sit back down or lay back down on the floor, go ahead and do that as well. So find a tall spine. Let your legs be crossed, or they can be straight out in front of you if you'd like. Soften your shoulders again. Soften around your jaw and your tongue and your eyes and your ears. If you're feeling tension there. Scan through the parts of your body that tend to get tight. And see if you can use your breath to create a bit more softness there. Then remember that image of more fearlessness. Bring that back up again. Bring that back up of you being more fearless. Not reckless, just stronger. Hand and turn the palm, put your right hand up with the palm facing forward. Fingers relaxed, but not spread out, but just relaxed. Come back. Breath. And just to get hold of more. Just for 3 times. Breathe in. Pause with that image. Breathe out. Breathe in with the steps. Pause with that image of you more fearless. Breathe out long. One more time. Pause with that image. Let your hands come back down to your lap. Wiggle your spine around if that feels good, or just stay still with that longer spine. If it's okay to close your eyes, close your eyes. If not, just soften your gaze. Just look at something softly and stare at it. Check in again with your breath. Notice how your breath feels now. Notice how your body feels now. Notice what's happening in your thoughts. Notice what's happening in your emotions. Notice your energy right now. And if there's anything you experienced in this session that you want to remember for later, try to park it somewhere in your mind so you can hold on to it later. I know Jen's going to come on back in a few moments and she's got a poll for you to fill out. So maybe you'd like to fill out that poll and then take that thing that you want to remember and write it down pretty quickly so you will remember it. All right, back to you then, Jen.
All right. Thanks, Neil, and great work, everyone. Neil, there was a comment, and it's a very interesting comment, and it's brought up a couple of questions for me. Like, I think there's a question in here, but then I also have sort of a question I think it would be useful to talk about. So I'm just going to read it.
Okay.
It says, well, first of all, thanks. And the person says that they'd never heard of gentle movement since they started doing these sessions. They say, I kept trying stretches, which made me more stiff and sore. I'm trying to listen to my body and how far I can go. But since I only feel sore the next day, it can be hard to know. Also, since I do activities of daily living plus these movements, maybe it's the activities of daily living and not the movements, but you know, how do you know? Yeah. And they just say they appreciate you taking things slowly, and you know, this is really different than having like a super yoga instructor, more of a yoga for fitness approach, right? So I think there's some questions in there, and then I also just wanted to, I thought maybe this is a chance to kind of highlight what, like, how is this different from just regular yoga or stretching? Like, what makes it different?
Wow. That's a great way to start. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. So I think there's probably a question in there around, like, how do you know how far you can go when it's really hard to know how much is too much.
Yeah. Well, maybe start with that one, and that it's such a wonderful question. Is that, you know, as I'm talking you through this and I'm giving you this guide to pay attention to what's happening inside you, as an indication of what's how much to continue, how far to sort of push, or how far to move, and with the expectation that you would know right now. And what we'd say is a lot of people will be able to find that information right now to tell them if it's the right thing to do in terms of how they'll feel later. But there are always people that, you know, we've worked with over the years who will say, no matter how much I pay attention right now, and no matter how good I get at paying attention to my breath and my body tension and my thoughts and my emotions and all these things, I'm still really not aware until the next day. And that is the reality for some people who have ongoing pain, and in which case it's harder. It's a harder situation because now you do this thing today and you need to wait until the next day to see how you're doing. And so sometimes it helps to have a consistent movement practice, a little bit different than what we're doing, so that you can do it a certain amount today and know how many repetitions you did, know how long you did it for, and then say, oh, how do I feel the next day? And if it feels like it's too achy the next day, then you say, all right, I'll come back to what I did and I'll do a little bit less. The other option you have actually is to say, well, what would happen if I did the same amount of activity 3 sessions in a row? So I do it Monday and Wednesday and Friday, and what you may find is that by the time Saturday gets around, it's not as stiff or sore the next day, that your body may adapt for that period of time. So you can try that way of morphing things, or you can go back to what you did and say, all right, it seems that doing that consistently is giving me too much soreness, too much achiness the next day. So how do I back this up just a little bit? We would also want to, say at this point, maybe this is when the individualized coaching could work even better, to have someone possibly find a different breathing practice for you to do, or to show you be even better at decreasing muscle tension. So hopefully that addresses that piece that's in there. In terms of this related to general yoga, what we've really done with a lot of these ideas is we've integrated some of the ideas of yoga in terms of the checking in and awareness and the modulating. The idea from yoga is that we have ability to influence every aspect of our existence. So why don't we do that within a movement practice? But I want to make sure that you understand that a lot of these things that we're doing here are actually more based on science. So science tells us that pain's not an accurate indication of how much to move. Everyone, of course, says, well, what do I do with that? Do I just ignore the pain? And so we're saying, no, the science says pain's not accurate, but that doesn't mean don't pay any attention to it. It would also say that your ability to keep your breath calm is not an accurate indication of how much to move. So that's why we've said is no one thing is accurate. So we want to pay attention to a whole lot of different things while we're moving to give us a better indication of how much movement would be okay. And I know that can be troublesome because we're asking you to pay attention to so many things. there's other things about science we brought in here. We know that rhythmic movement and repeated movements are a way to change the physiology in a good way to help us with pain. As I mentioned earlier today, that movements of the thoracic spine or the torso, that when we move that part of our body, it makes changes to our chemistry. And so you wouldn't see a lot of these things brought into a standard yoga class. The standard yoga class is based on the philosophies and teachings of yoga. Whereas what we're trying to do here is actually take movement and science and understanding the lived experience of pain and put them together. And as you can see, we're sprinkling some of the yoga things in too, because a lot of times those can be helpful. Anyway, I hope that helps explain that.
That's great, Neil. And I might put a couple resources in the chat for people if they are interested in learning more about the science piece. I'll see what I can find. Okay, so there's just a couple other questions. So just related to the first part of the question around like how how do you keep from getting sore and how do you sort of regulate your practice? The same person is just says, thanks for those suggestions. And they're wondering if, are these gentle exercises enough to keep fit?
Great question.
Really good.
I would say that this is a place to start, that doing this kind of a practice I think will open the door to more of the things that you want to do to get your body even healthier. So it's like, in terms of your body health, this could take you from lower health up into, get your tissues healthier. But you're learning strategies and techniques here that you then can use to start to add more force to your body. I would say to get fit, you want to do more movement. But here's where you learn how to do that without crashing all the time from the pain.
Great. Okay. A question from another person. If you have osteoporosis, are these movements safe?
Wow, that's a great question. And this is one of the hardest conditions for us to understand in terms of what movements are safe. So I guess I can't really answer the overall thing. If you have osteoporosis, you really should talk to someone who knows your specific situation that can give you better guidance about this. Because it's not a simple answer at all. And I can just sort of give you a quick sort of overview is that when we have osteoporosis that's more advanced, that sometimes people will find that they have fractures of the spine through forward bends, but it's more the rounding forward bend or the coming up. A lot of people with osteoporosis say, I bent over and I was okay when I bent over, but when I tried to get back up again, that's when it happened. So that's a movement that you want to get someone to tell you about if you've got osteoporosis, about your situation. How is that? We also get worried about forced rotations. So, where we're doing these gentle rotations to the side, and for the risk of a problem with that is lower, but I can't tell you there's no risk of that. But big rotations are something that pretty much everyone would say if you have osteoporosis, that's not a great thing to do. We also, we haven't been doing a lot of laying on your stomach, but a lot of people with osteoporosis would find if you're laying on your stomach, the weight of your body on the floor could actually cause a fracture of the ribs. So we need to be careful of that. So there's all these different things. And so I can tell you that these are risk factors, but I can't tell you the probability for you. And so I can't answer the question is it safe? You really do need to find a physical therapist or a doctor who can give you advice based on your situation. And with all these things, if you think it might not be safe, then this is the wrong approach for you. It'd be way better if you think the movement might not be safe at all, like might not be safe in any way, then imagine the movement rather than doing it, because there's still benefit from imagining the movement.
Great, thank you, Neil. Okay, sorry, there's, okay. Is there, if someone can't put their legs straight out in front of them, even using a bolster, is there a modification you can do?
I think the modification would, hopefully you can put your hands back. So if you can put your hands back, you've got that bolster underneath. As long as your wrists and your shoulders are okay with that, that's the modification I would do for that place. If you're okay with your knees bent and it's working on bending forward, you could actually sit with your legs crossed and do it from this position, and gradually work on getting your legs out a little bit more over time. But again, that's the only modification that I can sort of think of right now.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay. Let me see here. Sorry, there's a few questions. Oh, well, someone is just commenting on the ladder breathing and said it was very calming. And their comment was just that around imagery and the power of imagery. And they didn't really have a question, just saying that they enjoy that you're incorporating it. But I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting thing to comment on because I think imagery is very powerful. And I'm not sure if you want to say anything about that, Neil.
Wow. Briefly, yes. So imagery is very powerful. What we create in our mind can shift all of our physiology of our body, and it can take practice for it to really work. I mean, sometimes the language of yoga really works well. It says where the mind goes, our energy goes. And so, creating that image of joy or that image of fearlessness can create changes in our body as well. It's not just a mental thing; it's changing our body as well, and that's why we're bringing it in. And I always say is if you have any questions about that, just go talk to some high-level athletes because they'll all tell you how powerful it is.
Right, that's true. Okay, I think that is the end of our questions. Sorry, just looking through them. There's quite a lot of comments. Yes, okay. Thanks, Neil, and thanks to everyone for the session today. And hopefully we will see you tomorrow. We've got Helen Turner coming, so
yeah,
be a new instructor. All right, we'll see you next week, Neil.
All right, see you, Jen. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.